So, hello everyone. Welcome to the first mini lesson that I'm going to be giving through Adobe Connect. I'm going to be recording this while we have potentially some people coming into the Adobe Connect session. So far, nobody showed up. All right, your decision. I cannot stress again how useful these Adobe Connect sessions can be in terms of your understanding of the course content, asking questions, and just getting more in depth into the stuff that we're working with throughout the course. If you show up to them, I think you're going to do better in the class, even if you show up to half of them, right? Like the more of them that you can pop in to and ask questions in and kind of have a dialogue with me, and I think the more successful you will be in the course. Not necessarily, but odds are that that'll be the case. Um, I'm going to be recording lessons from time to time. There might not be one every day, but I'm going to try to offer you guys some instruction around the content similar to what you might find in a classroom, a brick and mortar classroom, so that you at least get a chance to hear my thoughts on what we're learning about, which will give you a better idea of where I'm coming from, because you got to produce work that I evaluate. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Certainly, I've received a lot of emails already regarding the first assignment, even the second assignment. Some people are really trying to get a jump on things, and so I want to get some kind of teaching material out there that gives you guys an idea of where my head's at. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to it. So I'm just going to switch over to screen share mode here, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. There we go. Let's get rid of this guy. We don't need that. And we're going to head over to our homepage. So just a quick note, if you haven't checked this out already, this post right here, you're going to want to do that. You must learn this or be doomed to have people judge you poorly. It's all about email writing, and trust me, you're going to be sending me some emails in this class. I've already received a ton, and you really want to be emailing me one way and not another way. Uh, I won't get into it more in this little mini lesson because I made the post for that reason. Go check it out. Write me good emails. Write emails that reflect you accurately and well, and you're going to be in better shape. Okay. Um, as always, just remember that Classroom News is our most important feed to look at multiple times a day. But of course, the activity feed over here on the right-hand side, this activity feed will be where I post little quick things, certainly where I post the link to get into Adobe Connect sessions. Okay, so moving along to today's content, to today's activity and assignment. So the first activity of the course is indeed the actual first activity as laid out by the Desire to Learn learning environment, right? So we go to activity 1, the themes of our lives. And the first thing we see is this overview. In this activity, you will be introduced to the main theme of this course. Again, I said this in my kind of navigational video that I made the other day that I posted. If you haven't watched that and you're still a little bit unclear about how to get around the D2L environment, our online classroom environment, you're going to want to watch that YouTube video that I posted about navigating. Okay. And one of the things I mentioned was that this overview is always really important to look at. Even if we jump into a unit and we don't start with activity 1, you're going to want to take a look at, it doesn't matter what activity we're doing. Just look at the overview. Always look at the overview, because it's going to give you an idea of what that activity and assignment are all about in an overarching manner. And this one's really important because it tells us that not only are we going to be dealing with oppression and emancipation in this activity, in this lesson, but you're going to be looking at these things throughout the course. It's the main theme of the course, oppression and emancipation, right? So you really want to get your head around those two ideas, those two themes. What does it mean to be oppressed? What does it mean to be emancipated? Can those things occur in different ways, right? Can they happen on different levels? I think you probably know already that they can, and you want to explore that, okay? So the first thing we're doing today is we are looking at how these themes of oppression and emancipation are addressed in the poems of two different poets, Langston Hughes and Jimmy Santiago Baca. just to give some faces to names here, let's just take a look at Langston Hughes. He's one of the most famous American poets, certainly one of the most famous African American poets, and a phenomenal poet overall. Just a mind-blowing poet who really, really delved into a large variety of subject matter, but certainly helped America, and especially white America, who was not dealing, or who were not dealing with these themes as much as Black America. He helped people who were not of color to understand these themes of oppression and emancipation through his poetry. Someone who took a look at those themes as well in depth was Jimmy Santiago Baca. He's still alive. He's a poet who's still with us today. Here he is, dapper guy. And he's actually of Chicano and Apache descent. So he has a couple of different lenses in terms of his ethnicity and his race to look through themes of oppression and emancipation, right? He has an intersection going on. He's not just a person who views the world from one ethnic or cultural or racial background. So he's able to see things and he has experienced things in a very unique way, and he's able to explore these themes of oppression and emancipation in a unique way as a result. Both the poems that we're looking at today are titled Oppression, which is also interesting, right? That in and of itself immediately tells us, right? If we look at, here's Jimmy Santiago's poem, here's Langston Hughes's poem, both titled Oppression, shows us that a theme, an idea, can be explored in multiple different ways, right? So both these poets took on this theme of oppression and offered the world their take on it. So definitely one thing you want to be doing today is, as you're going through this content, right? Here's like the lesson. That's what the content is essentially for the day. You really want to be making sure that you explore all the links that are there. Don't just skim. That will not lead you to be successful in the course. You cannot skim the content in these activities and expect to do well. You really need to read this stuff in depth and explore the links that are here. So when it gives us this answer to what is oppression, look at this. We talked about, or I already asked you the question, can oppression occur in more than one way and on more than one level? And here we're getting an answer that indicates that, right? So you're really going to find some useful guidance in going through this lesson material, this content, as it's called within the Desire to Learn environment. You're also going to get some background here on the poets themselves. You do have the opportunity here to listen to the poem read. It's not the greatest video, in all honesty, although it does help if you're someone who wants to hear something read out loud. It's not read out loud by Langston Hughes, which I'm not a huge fan of, right? I like to hear the poem read in the voice of the poet, though of course poetry, like any work of art, is open to interpretation once the creator puts it out there into the world. So it's not bad that somebody else is reading it. It's just I always like to hear a poem for the first time read by the poet themselves. If you can find something online where Langston Hughes is reading it, that might be interesting to listen to. But you're definitely going to want to open up those poems, and you're going to want to read them a number of times. As indicated in this content, in this lesson, right? It says down here, poems are designed to be read and reread, often 3 or 4 times before the message sinks in. It could be more times than that. People who really study poetry in depth, or people who just love poetry, they reread poems countless times. Hundreds, thousands of times, literally. They read them so much that they learn them off by heart, just because they've read them so much, right? So you want to take the time to read these poems over and over again. I would use this guideline at least 3 or 4 times to really understand and analyze what these guys are saying. Okay? One thing you're going to want to look at, and one student in the course was already doing this, Vanessa, shout outs to you. Vanessa was emailing me, and she was examining specifically, I think, the Langston Hughes poem from a format angle. So she was saying, can I look at actually how Langston Hughes is formatting this poem? Meaning, is he writing multiple, how many words is he including in a line? Why does he decide to keep the poem kind of on this very narrow visual level, right? Why doesn't he have the poem going 10 words in each line, making it a much shorter poem up and down? He's making a choice. He's making certainly a choice when he has certain lines of the poem only include one word. Why is he doing that? Why does prevail get its own word? Why does break get its own word, right, for a line? That's something interesting. These are the kinds of things you can dive into in poetry. Maybe there's a connection there. The only words in the poem that receive their own line are prevail and break. And obviously we need to look at what's around them to understand the context, right? Same thing with Jimmy Santiago Baca. Why do you break up a sentence? Look at this. Look deep to find the grains of hope and strength and sing, my brothers and sisters, and sing. This and sing period is technically part of this sentence. But Jimmy Santiago Baca decides to start the next stanza, the next verse of the poem, with this ending to this stuff. Why does he do that? Right? That's something you can analyze. You can analyze not just the words themselves and what they mean and the symbolism inherent in the poem's language, but you can always look at the formatting. I love that that came up. Poetry is not solely an audio experience. It's also a visual experience, right? So those are our poems, right? You want to check them out. You want to try to read in your head any poetry that you encounter as it is written. So, for example, if I'm reading Langston Hughes' Oppression, right? I could read it, now dreams are not available to the dreamers, nor songs to the singers. Right? That's one sentence. There's the period at the end there. But that's not how he wrote it. You want to pause, you want to kind of follow the visual clues, or the visual cues, either one works, that Langston Hughes is offering you. Now dreams are not available to the dreamers, nor songs to the singers. In some lands, dark night and cold steel prevail, but the dream will come back and the song break its jail. Right? I'm not claiming to be a perfect poetry reader, but I'm trying to give you an example there of how you might want to try to read with emphasis and with visual clues working into how you read the poem, because that's going to give you something also to think about, right? It shows you that the poets are trying to emphasize certain things, right? It's not look deep to find the grains of hope and strength and sing, my brothers and sisters, and sing. No, that's not how we read this. It's look deep to find the grains of hope and strength and sing, my brothers and sisters, and sing. The sun will share your birthdays with you behind bars, the new spring grass. Like fiery spears will count your years as you start into the next year. Endure, my brothers. Endure, my sisters. Right? You want to use those visual cues, and you also want to read with that where you think that emphasis is happening in your head. Or honestly, the way I just did it right now, that's how I would read it even if I wasn't reading it for you. It really helps to read poetry out loud. You want to get an idea of what these poems sound like, read them out loud. You're a little embarrassed, you're worried someone will hear you, find a quiet space, find a private spot, read them out loud to yourself. Or even do it kind of quietly under your breath, but with that emphasis. Okay? So you're reading those poems, and then we end up being asked in this assignment, let's go over here. We end up being asked the following. Assignment 1. That's the only one that you're responsible for. Now, quick logistical side note, right? Complete the following assignment and submit your work to the Dropbox. If I click this link, it's going to look a bit different for you after you click it, but it's going to take you to the Activity 1, Assignment 1 Dropbox, the folder in that Dropbox, and you are going to want to upload a word processor document, whether it's a Word file, a PDF, a Google Doc, and that's what you want to do in terms of your submission. Okay? Now, what is your submission going to entail? This is where things get a bit interesting because I've already had quite a number of questions about this. So let's just zoom in and read this assignment description. Having had a chance, let me just minimize this guy. You guys can see that, or take him. Oh, I can't get him off the screen. Okay. Having had a chance to read and reread poems by Hughes and Baca, you now have an opportunity to respond in writing. You're going to see that a lot in this course. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to respond in writing. In fact, every single thing you do in this class, because it's an online environment, is going to be in writing. Choose one of the poems and in a well-organized paragraph, outline the poet's views on oppression or emancipation. Now hold that thought for a second. I want to come back to this for just a very quick second. You now have an opportunity to respond in writing. I said that because we're in an e-learning environment, that's how everything's going to be done. Well, that's true and it's not true. What I mean by that is, because we're in an e-learning environment in summer school, that's how everything's going to get done, because we have very little time. But actually, if you took this e-learning course in a semestered context, if you were doing this e-learning course over the course of an entire school semester, the way you would your in-school courses, you would actually find that the assessments and the opportunities to engage with the learning material would look different than how they will in this summer context. You would have opportunities to engage in discussions. As a teacher, I would expect definitely for you to engage in a more real-time way. I might have discussions going on. I might have real-time audio, video discussions going on. So just so you know, this summer school context, it is not the only context that e-learning exists in. Okay, I think I might have missed John. John, I just noticed that you were trying to get in here. You're probably waiting a long time. Sorry about that, buddy. But I'll get back to you. I'll make sure to email you if you had a question or something. But I'm sure that you were just looking to get some of the stuff that we're going over now. Okay. So, moving along, back to this. Choose one of the poems and in a well-organized paragraph, outline the poet's views on oppression or emancipation. Oh, let me just get over here. There we go. John, welcome. We're in the middle here of doing a little mini lesson. Stick with me right now. You're going to end up being able to ask me some questions afterwards, and you're going to get a first-hand take of what everybody else is getting, okay? Natasha, welcome as well. So if you guys are joining right now, I'm just in the middle of recording a little mini lesson. Maybe from now on I won't do this during the time that I posted for Adobe Connect office hours, but I had seen that nobody was showing up, so I kind of got a jump start on it. So Natasha and John, great on you for showing up. What I'm about to explain is actually going to help you guys for sure with assignment 1 that you guys are responsible for today. So stick around and just listen to kind of the explanation I'm going to give. If you can do me a quick favor, throw in the chat box whether or not you can hear and hear me and see my screen. Can you guys see that and hear me? Excellent. All right, wonderful. So stick around for a little bit, maybe 15-20 minutes, and you guys are going to get a first-hand take on what we're expected to do today. You're going to want to go back and review the video just like I'm going to ask everybody else to do, because there was a fair bit of stuff that came before you entered the room, and it will help you very much as well, okay? But so what is it that we're actually responsible for today? So I was just saying that you have the opportunity to respond in writing, and you're going to be asked to do that for pretty much every assignment that we offer in the course in the summer school e-learning session. And here it says choose one of the poems. Okay, so that's really important. Do not write about both of them. Choose one, either Langston Hughes's poem or Baca's poem, and in a well-organized paragraph, outline the poet's views on oppression and or emancipation. Now, I want to talk about these two ideas, well-organized paragraph, and then the fact that it says on oppression and or emancipation, okay? Now, I've already had a number of people email me to say, or to ask rather, sir, how long does this have to be? Okay, well, there is a clue here, right? It says a well-organized paragraph. So if you're emailing me and saying, sir, like, is this like a 3-page assignment? Well, unless you've written paragraphs that last 3 pages before and gotten away with it, probably not, right? And obviously I'm being a bit sarcastic. That's too long. No paragraph should really be as long as all that. But we are in a situation that's a bit tricky because the course as it's laid out, the way that Desire to Learn and the ministry who have created this e-learning content that we're working through, the way that they phrase things is often it will say a well-organized paragraph. But a paragraph sometimes seems like it might be too small for us to get across our ideas in. So I'm going to give you a little bit of breathing room with this. And what I mean is the following. Okay, well, firstly, let's just take a look at this. Okay, this is from the University of Leicester. It's a very reputable university, and they just offer here a little description about what does it look like to write a good paragraph. This is at the university level, mind you. So you guys are in a university course. People in university are still working on stuff like this, right? It explains what a paragraph is, and then of course we get to this idea. How long should a paragraph be? Right? They basically say here that a paragraph shouldn't be less than 2 or 3 sentences long, and if it's less than that, you're in trouble. And then it says, you might have 2 or 3 paragraphs on a regular sized page. Down here they say if your paragraph is longer than half a page, you might want to check to see if the idea would be better explained in 2 or more paragraphs. They're not wrong about that. The real goal for a paragraph, right, what really guides us is down here. When do I start a new paragraph? Start a new paragraph for each new point or stage in your writing. When you begin a paragraph, you should always be aware of the main idea that is being expressed in the paragraph. Be alert to digressions or details that belong either in a different paragraph or need a paragraph of their own. Now, again, this is where it gets tricky because our original question is the following. Here we go. Outline the poet's views on oppression and/or emancipation. That's the key, guys. That's what we're really trying to do here. If you write me a piece of writing, and I'm going to come back to the sizing of a paragraph and how much we should write. But if the focus of your product that you submit is just about how the poem talks about oppression, i.e., Langston Hughes's poem, talks about oppression in a number of ways. Here are like 3 examples. That's not a very good answer to what we're being asked to do here, to what we're trying to do. Because what this is actually asking us to do, it's asking us to decide as critical readers what we see as the poet's view on oppression and or emancipation. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a tip here. You could write about both. It says and or, right? Oppression and or emancipation. But it might make your job a bit easier if you pick one. You don't have to write about both, right? You can just pick one of those themes and discuss and analyze what you think the poet's view on that theme is based on the content of their poem. So if I pick Langston Hughes, for example, I might come back to his poem, read it, reread it, do it 4 or 5 times, looking for clues, symbolism, visual cues, different ways that I can get ideas about what I think he thinks about oppression, right? What does oppression do to people? How does it impact them? What forms does it take? I can explore his idea of what oppression is and how it comes out in the world based on what's in here, based on his poem. I don't need to focus on just one of those things. So for example, I'm just kind of riffing here off the top of my head, but I might, in my paragraph, explore how Langston Hughes, based on this poem, oppression is about, the emotional, the crushing of someone's, emotional spirit. It might be, and maybe I'm looking up here for evidence about that. Hold on one sec. Looks like we have a question here. Is it a persuasive paragraph from John? I mean, if we take a look and at the assignment instructions again, right? It says outline the poet's views on oppression. Now, it doesn't say it's a persuasive paragraph per se, but if I'm trying to write something that tells the reader based on this poem, I can say that these are the, it can be said rather, because I don't want to use personal pronouns, right? I'm looking for formal writing here. So we don't want to use I or you or we or any of that stuff. But, saying based on oppression by Langston Hughes, it could be said that Langston Hughes's views on oppression are the following, right? Or Langston Hughes's view on oppression can be summed up in the 3 following points. You might end up having more, by the way. Down here, it says provide at least 3 examples from the poem, but potentially you could have more points. a quick note on that, I'm not going to just reward quantity. So if you say, well, I'm going to put 10 points, 10 examples in there, that doesn't mean you're going to get a better grade. In fact, great writing is about being efficient and about being clear, getting your ideas across with less. The saying less is more really applies to writing. So if you have 3 really strong examples, that's going to work better than 10 really crappy ones, okay? Really weak ones. But back to John's point about persuasive paragraphs and persuasive writing, anytime really I'm supposing something. So if I'm telling my reader that I think Langston Hughes's views on oppression based on this poem titled Oppression are 1, 2, and 3, it's persuasive writing, right? I'm trying to show them and convince them that I'm right. So in that sense, it is, yes, a persuasive paragraph, okay? I hope that answers your question. You're asking me a little bit more, John. I'm waiting to see what you got to say. All right, perfect, wonderful, okay? So coming back here to this, and we're almost done with this, guys, but I just really want to hammer this home because it's not just about this assignment. I'm trying to talk about this idea of a paragraph because you're going to see this come up again and again in the course where it says in a well-organized paragraph. But you're going to want to think about that in a bit of a creative way. Really what we're getting at here is we want to, if you think about a paragraph, a good paragraph has a topic sentence, right? What the paragraph is about. And then it has supporting evidence. We often ask you in high school for, 2 or 3 supporting details. And then a concluding sentence that wraps up the paragraph and kind of hits home again what the paragraph was about, kind of states our topic sentence again. And then if we're moving to another paragraph, we would have a transitional sentence or phrase, right? That's just good paragraph writing. And in fact, one of the models that we use is called point proof analysis. And this exemplar, which actually goes through kind of how you would work your way through that in a paragraph, making a point, then offering proof, then offering your analysis, and then potentially transitioning. This exemplar I'm going to post to our classroom news along with this recording after we're done here. Okay, so you'll have a chance to look that over. This is a solid model to use when you're writing paragraphs, point proof analysis. But the thing is that a paragraph is kind of like a mini version of an essay, right? If you think about it, your topic sentence in a paragraph is like your thesis in an essay. And your supporting details in a paragraph are like your body paragraphs in an essay. And your concluding sentence in a paragraph is like your conclusion in an essay. And the reason I'm bringing up an essay is because when you're asked in this course to write a well-organized paragraph, often, just naturally, you're going to end up writing more than one paragraph. And I'm still honestly debating how to treat that because I probably want more from you. It's going to be hard a lot of the time for you guys to just write, I don't know, let's say you have 1 sentence for your topic sentence. Let's say your supporting details, you have 3 supporting details and they each take 2 sentences each. So let's say that's 6 sentences plus 1, and then you have a concluding sentence. That's 8 sentences. It's going to be hard for you to get across some really in-depth ideas in 8 sentences over and over again in this course. You're going to need more space than that. So I want to give you some more wiggle room, okay? So what I'm going to say is let's try this first one out. Let's see how you guys do with it. I'm going to see where people's writing is at. I'm going to give you some feedback, and we'll take it from there. But I'm not expecting you to limit yourself to like 8 to 10 sentences, right? What I'm expecting is that you kind of are going to use this model that I provided to you in this exemplar, and you're going to use it to the best of your ability. So your point, right, your initial point, you can call that kind of your introduction, is going to be in a sense, your overarching topic sentence, or really your thesis. We're kind of writing mini essays in this class probably, right? And so you're going to be saying to me, you're going to be writing something that connects back to this. Outline the poet's views on oppression and or emancipation, right? In the opinion, it can be seen from Langston Hughes's poem Oppression that Langston Hughes as a poet views oppression in the following ways, 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to move on to using this exemplar point proof analysis for each of those 3 points, right? So I could potentially expect from you three different kind of instances of point proof analysis based on the three supporting examples that you provide. If you have more than that, if you end up offering me, I'm just going back here, there we go. If you have more than three examples, then you'll have more than three instances of the point proof analysis. But for each example or piece of evidence that you provide, you can call that a point, right? Or that's your proof, right? But anytime you provide an example, you're going to need to tell me what that example is a point of, what the example is, what the evidence is, the proof, and then analyze it, explain to me why it matters, connect the point and the proof. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for this time around. I know that that's probably a bit confusing. It's hard to do in this context where I'm just talking at my screen and talking for too long, honestly, this first time around, because I'm trying to over-explain things, and I don't get to hear you guys talk back to me, right? So let's see how it goes this first time around, and then we'll have some feedback from there. Natasha, I see you're writing something, so I'll get to you once you post your question, okay? Let me just take a look here and see if there's anything else I want to point out to you guys before I let you go. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this anymore. I'll post this link as well to the University of Leicester stuff on paragraph writing. And again, I'll post this exemplar, and I'll look for some other examples or exemplars that I can post to you guys about paragraph writing that might help you. For the examples of quoting poetry, what are the numbers referring to after the first example? So I'm guessing that Natasha is talking here about one of the posts that I put up there for you guys. Let's just go back to it on our course homepage. And Natasha, you let me know in the chat box. You're referring, I want to make sure I'm talking about the right thing here. You're talking about this guy, quoting poetry? Okay, great. So the numbers here that Natasha's talking about, she's saying when I'm quoting a poem, I'm looking down here at these examples that Mr. Title is posting, and then they have the numbers 42 to 44. That would be the lines in the poem. So actually, this would have been, it's actually the example kind of got broken up here, but this should be on this line. But either way, this represented 3 lines of a poem. Okay, so what you could do, Natasha, to make that a bit clearer here, let's use this. Let's say I quote, "Now dreams are not available to the dreamers." Then my citation at the end of my quote, my brackets are going to say 1 to 3, because this is line 1, line 2, and line 3. I don't need to write 1, 2, 3. I just want to write the first line I'm quoting, the number, to the last line I'm quoting. So again, for example, if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so here's line 6. If I quoted "In some lands, dark night and cold steel prevail," let's say I quoted these, then I would be writing in brackets 6 to 9. Does that make sense, Natasha? All right, perfect. Okay, so that's how you quote poetry in terms of the citation and the numbers. Read over this for sure, because absolutely the last thing I'll check out with you guys right now, let's just jump back to our assignment, and I promise we're about to be finished. You guys have been very patient, people who are listening, John and Natasha especially in person. Love that you guys showed up. If we look at, whoops, I don't know why I'm doing this. Jump back to our assignment and look at the rubric. Okay, if we look at the rubric, you will notice that one of the things that we're looking for are conventions, right? Use of conventions, such as spelling and grammar. That's not the only thing we're thinking about, though, right? Not just spelling and grammar. I'm looking for you to be able to also use proper MLA format. Okay, so that is explicitly being stated here. When we're talking about communication, part of that is using proper MLA formatting. All right, so whether that ends up falling into communication or application, it depends on the assignment, but you're always going to be writing from an MLA standpoint, as I posted in the course homepage. And so that's why that quoting poetry stuff that Natasha was just asking me about, let's just jump back to it, sorry. That's why the MLA stuff on the course homepage regarding quoting poetry, here it is, and then as well, underneath it, formal writing, MLA formatting, that stuff is important because it matters in terms of your marks. right? You want to make sure that you're doing that properly. And also, it just makes you a better writer. That's really why it matters, right? The grades are based on how well you can write. So if you're not doing this stuff, it means that your writing is less clear, less professional, and then obviously that's going to affect how you communicate to people, and in a school context, that's going to affect your grade. Okay, so make sure you're doing that stuff. I think that's pretty much it. I'll also post this video just because I think it's a wonderful song that definitely touches upon the themes of oppression and freedom. If you're not a Bob Marley fan, maybe this will convert you. One of the greatest artists ever. I would say most people would agree on that. Certainly one of, if not the greatest reggae star of all time. Bob Marley, no longer with us, phenomenal musician, sings a song called Redemption Song, which is totally about emancipation and oppression. And if you take a listen, and the lyrics are actually in this YouTube video, it might help you to understand these themes from another angle. So you might want to take a listen to that, okay? I'm going to stop my recording. John and Natasha, that doesn't mean you guys need to leave. We can have a chat that isn't part of our recorded session to answer any questions you guys have, okay? So everybody else, let me just pull up my screen here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. And let's go back to discussion. I hope that was helpful to everybody. I promise, I really do promise that I want the videos to be much shorter than the one that I just made, and we're going to try to make that happen. It's just the first time we're doing it. It's my first time doing it, and like I said, I want to over-explain things because I want to make sure that people have a really good idea of what I'm expecting from them. Okay? I know that there are still going to be questions, and I know that some people are going to watch this video and say, I'm still confused about stuff. That's fine. Email me and or meet me in Adobe Connect at the later time in the day. You can even ask me to meet you one-on-one if you have a different time that works for you, and if it works for me, we can do that as well. Make sure to read the email post that I put up in the course news. If you're emailing me, you want to do it with some intention and with some care, because it does affect how I view you and your writing. Okay, so I just want to stress that one.